Good evening, everyone. This is Vidhi Berry. I'm here today in my fourth session of the HEAL series, the series which brings to you health, energy, awareness, and learning. Today we have with us Dr. Meghna Dikshit, an Ayurvedacharya, a life transformation coach, a success coach, almost worked with 50,000 clients in the last 30 years, and also my mentor. I'm really, really privileged to have her here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Vidhi, and the viewers for being here with us. And this is absolutely a privilege, Vidhi, because, I think I would be happiest when I am actually with one of my students who's already accomplished so much, and there is so much that I can talk to you about. So it would be
Absolutely.
amazing, I'm sure.
Great. And today I think we've got a very, very pressing, relevant topic, which is to do with the whole fear psychosis that our entire society is going through regarding the pandemic, the biology of our belief, and how it affects our hormones, our stress responses, and finally our immunity levels. But what I want to first go into is your journey of going from an Ayurvedacharya to a life coach and bringing this holistic approach there. How did you transition from there, and why is it relevant to merge these two fields? Can you shed a little light on that?
Yes, Vidhi, thank you so much for such a lovely question. And, as a child, I'll go back a little bit to tell you a little bit about myself. Like, as a child, I would never understand that, when I can grasp a subject so easily, I learn so fast. But then when it comes to the time of reproducing it, why am I not able to reproduce it appropriately as much as I learn? And I could never get that answer. Sometimes teacher would say that, oh no, you're not doing enough. Sometimes somebody would say that, oh, you don't have a good memory. And I somehow never come to terms with this, that not possible that I'm putting so much effort, and why am I not getting the results that others are getting? Okay. And somewhere I found my answer in Ayurveda, where I realized that there are 5 elements in the nature, and every species on the planet is made up of these 5 elements. Even when you look at, so the concept of, there is this philosophical concept where it talks about the macrocosm and microcosm. So what is in the universe is inside you. Like when we hear these popular things and popular terms, right? Whatever results you have is your inner self, and inner reflection, that stuff.
Yeah.
And all that is, to tell you the truth, like most of the times I haven't seen people expanding on it so much, but because there are 5 elements in the nature, you are made up of 5 elements as well. So you got to understand that when you're born with a certain composition of these 5 elements. In Ayurveda, it is also called as Prakriti. So there are 3 types of Prakritis, and obviously mixed ones, but major is Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Now my Prakriti is Vata and Pitta. So for me, the combination of air, space, and fire brings a lot of fieriness, brings a lot of ability to the ability to present my thoughts, ability to argue, ability to negotiate, ability to talk to people, and also grasp the subjects very easily. But because I have a very low composition of earth and water element, it's difficult for me to retain that information. Like the speed of gaining the information is so high, but retaining is very low. And that's where I got an answer where, I need to understand what are my strengths with my natural elements, and what are my weaknesses, right? Most people you will see are fighting against their weaknesses. Now, I wonder that why would you fight? So where are you focusing on?
Yeah.
In schools and colleges, what are you told? All the time, like you're not good in math, you're not good in this, you're not good in that. Why are we focusing on these weaknesses? Now, if I am able to learn fast, and if I'm not able to retain a lot of information, what can I do? Like, how do I enhance my strengths, and how do I work around my weaknesses? So I came up with an idea that if I'm learning very fast, and I feel that this is a very good subject for me, and this is something that I would retain for a longer period, I realized that my brain has got an ability to repetition. If I learn from repetition, I will be able to retain it faster. The second thing is about Vata. Okay, Vata is air and space, right? So Vata element is about speed. Like my mind can go at the speed of I don't know what. I can't even say maybe 10 rockets in a moment. So I realized that I have these two gifts. Speed is gifted to me and repetition I can always use. Right. So I started working really, really hard and I still do that because I know that probably my memory doesn't retain as much as it's supposed to be for, so what I do is I put the flip charts around everywhere, the things that I want to remember more. And then I started realizing that now it's easy. It's easy for me. And from there I started. This is one simple example I'm giving. So if every person understands what it is for you, you can work around it and each one of us can become success. Because if you flow with the water, you're going to be going faster to the destination rather than swimming against the tide.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole philosophy and that's where the whole holistic coaching came in place.
Absolutely. So you're talking about success, and when we talk about success, the biggest thing that comes in is handling success in a difficult time like right now, and also learning to manage stress. So learning to manage stress is a really important one, and I think there is a neurobiology when it comes to learning to manage stress and the belief of whether we are stressed and what we perceive as stress. So what is this neurobiology of stress, and how does it manifest within our bodies?
Okay, wonderful. So see, we as humans have evolved over a few millions of years, right? So over evolution, from the reptilian brain structure, we have evolved to mammalian brain structure. And from mammalian brain structure, we evolved to human brain structure, right? Which is also popularly called now is the frontal lobe of the brain, which is right here. Okay. So, but what happens is, as an inherent nature of any species on the planet, and especially for the human, it is designed like the brain's primary function is to keep you safe.
Yes.
And why to keep you safe is because the planet needs the humans. Now, that's something which is the brain has clearly the indication that no matter what, my survival, if at all my survival is in the threat, then I'm going to withdraw all my attention from anywhere else and bring it to survival so that this person is alive. So that our population on the planet is right there and the humans are not going to extinct. That's the design of the human brain, primary brain, right? So in the primary brain itself, like in hypothalamus, you will see that there are these two glands, you would say, amygdala and hippocampus. Okay. So amygdala is all about controlling your fight and flight response. And hippocampus stores all your past experiences and memories. Okay. So, and it not only, it is plugged on to the cerebellum. Now, cerebellum is a part of your brain, which is right there sitting down, near the spine. There, the entire human history is stored. So that even if you haven't, it's simple, when you reach a cliff of the mountain, it tells you automatically to go back.
Yeah.
If you're not supported, don't just go and do bungee jumping if you're not supported, right? Because that's something which is designed to keep you. Now, amygdala and hippocampus both are together in the brain. What happens is any sort of a stress that comes in, stress as in any sort of a trigger that comes in your space. It could be, for some people, it could be a trigger of seeing a cockroach or a rat, or for some people, it could be a trigger of being on the airplane, or for some people, it could be trigger of COVID. Anything could be a trigger for anybody. And what happens is the moment that trigger comes in your space, the feedback is given to the amygdala, because the amygdala is all the time like a sentry, in a cruise ship, how the sentry is all the time telling you. Like how we all know in the Titanic what happened. The sentry lost the track, the whole thing, and the Titanic hit the iceberg, right? So sentry's job is to tell the captain all the time that how you have to, be alert, be alert, be alert. So amygdala is all the time going to be alert mode, and especially when it sees the trigger, it's going to go in a hyper alert mode.
Right.
So it's like, even if there is no cockroach, a cockroach looking thing also will come and the mind will just, your brain will just explode.
Yeah.
Right? And amygdala is connected to hippocampus. So what it does is when it gets into the higher alert mode, it connects with the memories from the past. Now it could be any area. Like, see, I'm going to talk about the relationships right now here. Okay. So if you look at the relationships, who hurt us the most when you're children? People. Right? Now you go out in the world, you grow up and you want to do business with people, or you want to negotiate sales with people, you want to do marketing to people, you want to do some things with people. Now in your memory, people have hurt me in the past. So the moment that memory flashes, amygdala is going to release the fight and flight response, and automatically emotions will either go in the fight or flight. Now what do I mean by fight or flight? When humans were the cavemen, obviously, like, think about this scenario where you're coming out of the cave and you're nicely kind of like slept in the night, and you see the tiger in front of you. Right now, when you see the tiger in front of you, your brain is going to, the amygdala is going to quickly give you a reaction where either you need to kill the tiger or you need to run away from the tiger.
Right.
Now that's fight and flight. Depending on the opponent, you fight or you flight. That's how the human brain is designed. Now, unfortunately, we don't have tigers in the society today. Like, they are poor things in the conservation zone, but we don't have it in the society. So, what we have right now is the newspapers, the media channels, the social media, probably somebody's mother-in-law, father-in-law, children, spouse, it could be our boss, it could be anybody, or employees for that matter. Those who are constantly reminding you of these triggers that it's not all okay.
And humans have become that tiger.
Yes, they become the tiger in your life, right? So what happens is the moment you see them as a stressor or a trigger, automatically those circuits come in place. And then, if you look at the body, the body functions on the energy, right? So whenever the stress comes in place, the one hormone that releases very quickly, there are many hormones, but I'm going to touch base on one right now, cortisol. Now, when the higher the cortisol kicks in the body, the release of the glucose happens.
Yeah.
The more release of the glucose happens, the more energy is generated in the body, and the more energy is given to the extremities, so that you either run or you fight.
Right.
Right? Now, the unfortunate thing is where are your organs? All your organs are in the core.
Yeah.
Now, if you're constantly going to have those triggers in your space, then that energy which you need, because see, in your system, if you look at from heart to your abdomen, that the whole core area needs a maximum energy. But brain is going through a space where brain is feeling it's okay if I don't give the energy to these organs, they are not going to die immediately. But if I don't give it to the extremities, this person might not survive. And then the whole blood flow, like a 90% blood flow goes to the extremities.
Yeah.
That means your organs which are going to be malnourished. And then you see that you get thyroid, you get diabetes, you get obesity, you get PCOS, all the lifestyle diseases come from that area.
Right.
So that's the neurobiology of the stress, that how and because the beliefs are connected to your nervous system, it straight gives the information to your organs. This is what is happening. Now, there are 3 stages of stress. The first stage is alarm stage. In the alarm stage, the moment the stress comes or the stressor comes in your space, it is important for the brain to give that signal. And it is a valid signal. It is an important signal. It's like the sentry telling the captain of the ship that there is an iceberg. I can see the iceberg.
Right.
Now, what happens is the moment your brain learns that there is a stressor, if you have a good coping mechanism, that how do you navigate your ship and it won't hit the iceberg, if you can do that, The next level comes where it comes as a resistance stage.
Right.
What is the resistance stage? Where the now body is all geared up to take care of you, to
Mm.
keep you protected, to keep you safe. It comes in the resistance phase where it
Mm.
starts healing you.
Yeah.
That's where your sleep comes in place. That's where your painkillers comes in place. What does the painkiller etc. do in the body? They actually cut that nervous system impulse. So your
Right.
body, there is no more stress. Or you may take a tranquilizer and you go off to sleep. Their body is not getting those stressors, like those impulses. Right? So when you
Mm.
cut those things, you naturally go into a resistance mode where the body takes over, the healing, natural ability of the healing takes over, and
Mm.
it kind of starts healing your body.
Right.
Okay. This can only happen when there is a stressor and you're able to cope up and this change. But if it doesn't, then
Right.
you're constantly going to be in the alarm stage and a resistance stage, and then
Yeah.
you'll hit the third stage, which is an exhaustion stage.
Mm.
The moment you get into the exhaustion stage, that's where you see most of the diseases are stemming up. That's where you see most people's relationships crumbling down. That's where you see that people making really bad decisions. Now you imagine that the 35,000 decisions a human makes every single day.
Yeah.
And I always ask this one question to people: how many of them are you aware of?
Yeah.
And people just give me this answer, a brightest person will say 10 in a day.
Yes.
So what happens to those 34,990 decisions? They are taken
Absolutely.
by your primitive brain. And if your primitive brain is not sorted, if it is overwhelmed by the past memories of failure, rejection, humiliation, etc., 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 you will get loads of diseases.
Fair enough. Yeah. So I think, I think you beautifully tied in the science to our stress responses for people to really, really understand and discover what's going on in their brain. Because, like you said, we're not aware we're making so many decisions. We're not even aware that these 2 points in our brain is talking to each other. They're very close to each other. And so much of it is in our human history, not only our immediate genetic history, but human history. And that's what's making us react, plus our entire childhood and all of that information. Now we are in a unique situation right now where I want to, start highlighting what a few people are going through, and some of it is magnified because many people are going through. So lifestyle diseases are a reality. They've already happened due to the consequences of how we've handled our stress, like you mentioned. Now we are in a pandemic situation where many people are living with this, and their fear is magnified fourfold because they already are living with these diseases, and their loved ones are even more fearful and in a state of constant panic of what's going to happen next, because we don't feel that society is equipped to deal with this, the medical system is equipped to deal with it, and nobody really knows where the end is. So how do we live a daily life when we feel that there is a loved one or many loved ones who are either aged or have a comorbidity situation due to an existing lifestyle disease? How should that person handle it? Because I think they are facing the major brunt of this.
Okay. So two things here I would like to add before I even get into this topic. Okay.
Yeah.
In life, in general, forget about the pandemic, COVID, or any other situation. What you can control, you focus on that. What you cannot control, you don't focus on that. It's natural because most people get into worry because they focus on things that they are not in control with, right? So you focus on things what you're in control with. Now this whole COVID is going to spread only by the if you get in touch with somebody else who has a COVID. So you got to be extra cautious. If I see people, I'm in Mumbai, I see people are just stepping out of the house. I don't know for what. I am sure if you kind of restrain from stepping out of the house unnecessarily for a couple of years from here on, because see, even if the vaccine comes in, we are not sure. It's a pandemic, and we are not sure that it's going to end within a year or 2 years. It at least will take some time to kind of fizzle it out, and we get into the herd immunity, and we all are now immune, like how the influenza is moving in the air, and not everybody is getting infected by influenza, right? Because we have got into the herd immunity. Now you just got to be careful about till we reach that stage. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk is, most people focus on problems rather than progress. So where do you pay your attention to? Always remember that brain is going to give you the energy. Where do you pay attention to? Like if you pay attention to all the problems and worries regarding the COVID and stuff happening in the world, you are going to drain your energy because your energy is going to go out in the extremities for fight and flight. And your core is going to be exposed. And the moment your core is exposed, your immunity is down because all your immunity is in the core area. So focus on progress, like, shut down all those unnecessary information which is not really helping you. Shut down them and just focus on progress, that what can you do right now to build your immunity. So focus on the healthy stuff to eat, eliminate the things which probably are not good for you. यहाँ आपको पता है कि आपको नहीं खाने चाहिए फ्राइड चीजें और आप दबा के वड़ा पाव और समोसे और भजिया खा रहे हो. Obviously you don't have an energy in your core, right? So the lighter your diet is, the better your life is going to be in this pandemic. I have heard this enough since my childhood till now, कि खाने से ज्यादा लोग मरते हैं, ना खाने से कम.
No, and it's great you're saying that, because a lot of people who've been working with me on nutrition and health have said that thank you, we are on this path, and thankfully we are the only members of our family who've not only maintained but reduced our weight during this time. Everybody else is on either stress eating or partying because they're at home, so they find reason to celebrate and eat even unhealthy. And all of this stress is making people eat absolutely the wrong food, which they know for a fact is not good for them. So
yeah, that's
mind makes you make these decisions.
See, no, it's more than that. Yes, decisions, but the decisions are affected because of the stress, because of the energy, right? Now, if the cortisol is kicked in the body, and if you're constantly in the alarm stage of the stress, what is going to happen is, where do you get energy from? You get energy from food. And kitna bhi karo wo energy kam padegi, because there's a constant stress, right? Yeah. So most people work, from A point to B point. I always tell people that do reverse engineering. You figure it out now. What's your stress point? What is your stressor? Work in your brain. You have the immense potential. You are the source of energy. Yeah. There are people in the world, those who don't eat for a month and they still survive, and they're really healthy. Why? Because they know that there is a source of energy right in your gut, in your colon. So how do you keep your colon healthy? How do you keep all those things? But people want shortcut. And 80% of the people you will fall in the category of messing up around them. 20% of the people you will see are getting healthier, better, they look better, they feel better, they are kind of like focusing. So I think it's all together. Like, it's like whatever I spoke about, it's also focusing on your diet and nutrition and your physical activity. It's also focusing on what emotions are there. It's also focusing on the thoughts, and the thoughts are coming from your environment.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And this, it's interesting how you said shut everything down. That is causing this trigger, this stress response, bringing back to, I would say, what you're saying is gut physically, our inner awareness, everything is all about going within. You said it's not necessary. If it's not necessary, why are you going out? Because that is something you can control. You can control yourself and bring that awareness to yourself. So how do we, in today's time, look at this inner awareness going within the self, strengthening the self in a practical way that is manageable by all? What are the tools that we can use?
Okay. So, what I love about, one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, he says that you focus on 3 things in your life if you want to get back up, He says you get into your peak state. What is a peak state? That a high energy state where you are kind of like in the zone, in the flow zone, we can call it, right? So first he says is focus on your physiology. So the first thing is get moving. Stop sitting in one place. And by that, I don't mean doing 10,000 steps. By that, I mean that get up every hour if needed.
Yeah.
Schedule a time, at least a 20 minutes time for your workouts in a day. Yeah. See, it's not the time. It's most likely it's a priority that people don't have.
Absolutely.
So setting up your priority, right? The second thing he says is a language. Now, language is like, what's your internal language? Be aware. What are you talking to yourself? Are you talking about, oh shit, it's another day, and this whole COVID has ruined my this, and it has kind of done this. I know everybody's gone through that. Like everybody who was like person like me who is so used to connecting with people, physically meeting them. It's 5 months that I haven't stepped out of the house, but I found my way to connecting with people. So work around your language. Like, what are you talking to yourself? I can't, I shouldn't, always, never. These are the words which are going to pull you down. So find out what are your words which are going to pull you down.
Right.
Okay. Or this is very difficult. This is very challenging. This is, oh my God, there is always a problem going on. Kuch na kuch chalta hi rehta hai. People, you have lots of words. Whatever comes out of your mouth is actually there in your brain. And you are actually releasing those emotions. You're actually releasing those cortisol hormone. Figure out that. And where do you focus on? So, as I said, the focus should be on the progress.
Yes.
What has wonderful happened in the last 5 months? Rather write every single day 3 things that have gone really well in your life, rather than talking about 10 things that didn't go well. I'm sure किसी की लाइफ इतनी भी बुरी नहीं होती है कि उसकी जिंदगी में 3 अच्छी चीजें जिंदगी में नहीं हो रही है एक दिन में.
फोकस हम उस पे डालते हैं जो नहीं हो रहा है ना.
हाँ,
फोकस उन चीजों पे डालते हैं जो नहीं हो रहा है. So coming back,
you got to force yourself to write a journal. Like as I said, get yourself moving. The second thing you need to do is put yourself in a focus zone where you are actually writing a journal. And if it's the family, sit all together and write a journal. That what went well today, reflect on your day. When you reflect on your day, naturally you realize, you come to an awareness that, okay, this probably I made a mistake, tomorrow I'll correct it. You're giving a feedback to your body, to your neurology, that how can you become better for tomorrow. And there's a certain kind of an objectivity comes when you write a journal. So simple things, but I personally feel that people don't take that effort because somewhere deep down that there's self-love missing. कि यार इससे क्या होने वाला है? यार बड़ा बहुत काम करना पड़ेगा इस सब के लिए. अरे सोच के मतलब stupidity सोचने से जो अच्छा है तो अच्छे काम करो ना.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think I've learned this from you, and like you said, there are aspects to working on the self, and starting with physiological, which is the nutrition, getting the movement right, seeing again, tying back to Prakriti on what are the movement that is perfect for you, and then finally, when we are talking about the neurobiology of stress, coming back to finding the right mindfulness practices. And I think journaling is a start for everyone, whether it's that thankfulness jar where we say thank you for 3 things every day, or writing it in the journal by the end of the day, or getting up in the morning and saying, okay, this happened, but these are the 3 amazing things that I'm looking forward to today, in the next 3 days, in the next week. And I think every day when you do it, it adds up. Your jar fills up, your journal fills up, and you realize that what that self-talk was is not true, because the evidence is right there in front of you. So I absolutely love that, and I have you to thank for giving me that. And it's amazing how we've evolved. We've been holed up for the last 5 months, and we are connecting not only with each other but with thousands of people, tens every day in our clinics through Zoom, and taking our progress forward, and really I think imbibing and encouraging, imparting that everyone around us needs to be able to heal their families and their inner self, so that we can actually spread this, rather than spreading this whole trigger of stress and fear at all times. So I'm really grateful that you were able to seamlessly weave in the science, weave in the physiology of stress, and weave in how we can actually have key takeaways and daily activities that we can all practice to actually heal our minds, so that our bodies become more immune, rather than just saying, let's take one herb or a kadha and fix this problem. First, we have to clear ourselves of those toxins on a daily basis. Totally. So I love these thoughts, and I hope all of you have a lot of things to take away from today's session. I really feel that we are already healing after talking to you. As always, learning so much from you, and really excited to have you on this journey with me of healing. I wanted to also take a minute to talk about our next speaker next week, who is Natasha Chalmi, celebrated chef, who's going to bring the physiological aspect of enjoying healthy, tasteful cooking at home every day to actually get this healing, because food is a big part of our mind, of our visual, of us building our immunity. But coming back to Dr. Meghna and this whole idea of success and progress, I hope we can all start internalizing it today, just like you have, and you have inspired me and thousands of other people. So thank you so much for being here today, and we look forward to having you soon again with us on
Thank you,
discussing.
Vidya. It was a pleasure. It was a privilege, and it was amazing conversation as usual with you. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And I would request each one of you, if you like the talk and if you would be interested, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, and also like my Facebook page. Everywhere it's Dr. Meghna Dixit.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming to my show. Thank you. Bye. Good evening to everyone.